What's up, everyone? I'm James Baney, and this is the Clone Wars Fan Show. Today, for the last time, we're going to be talking about the series finale of the Clone Wars, which is Season 7, Episode 12, Victory and Death. May the 4th be with you. I hope you're having a good one. Today was a very special day. Not only did they release the episode on a not Friday, if you will. They dropped it on Monday with a bunch of other Star Wars content, but it is that classic holiday, May the 4th, right? May the 4th be with you. But I will say that when it comes to this very specific episode of the Clone Wars, and not just this season, of the Clone Wars, they did it. They did it. They delivered. They gave us a perfect ending. And you know how we do this show. We rate the show out of clones, 1 out of 10 clones. And this episode, in my opinion, is a 10. Yep, that's right. Yeah, it's there's nothing wrong with it. I looked, I tried, I thought, well, maybe not really though, you know? I kind of did. I watched this episode differently than the other ones. It came out, it dropped at midnight or whatever. And it just so happened that I had already made a decision to myself that I was going to rewatch 9, 10, and 11 before I got to 12, and then I'd watch 12 in the morning whenever I was getting ready to do the show. And it turns out it had already dropped, so I was like, all right, well, I'll finish up the last 10 minutes of Shattered, and then I'll just go right into this, and I can still kind of flip through it in the morning, and I'll make notes, but this was actually the first episode of the season that I just turned out the lights, pulled up a chair, sat right in front of the television, and just went on the journey, totally. And it kind of made me think that, with me sitting there writing the notes, pausing, writing the notes, and then going back, watching the next section, writing the notes and stuff, it may have changed my view a little bit, because when I went back and rewatched some of those other episodes, I was like, man, I gave this one an 8.9, I gave this one a 9.3, and this one is perfect as well. So I think, keep in mind the last couple episodes were still with the grading first time viewing thing, but this one, with me just sitting and watching it, perfect 10 in my opinion. And man, thank you to everybody who was involved in making these. This is some of the best Star Wars, and I kid you not. I'm going to get to the episode breakdown here in a minute, but I wanted to kind of talk about something that I thought was kind of eye-opening in my opinion when it comes to watching these specific last 4 episodes, is that every single time I'm on the Resistance broadcast, or I'm just having a conversation with friends, I always think, I really like the animated stuff, and the animated stuff is really good, but I kind of put it in the same category as television, where it's I really like The Mandalorian, but I'd rather be able to watch, some of these movies, and I'm probably not going to want to be man, I want to rewatch The Mandalorian, Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, it's just going to be so much content. I kind of put animated in that same category too. And it made me think, the way people are reacting to these last 4 episodes and the way it was kind of treated in this cinematic view is, I think, one of the best things that Star Wars could do that they really haven't done. And they kind of did do it with the one movie thing, but bear with me. It's been a long time since that's happened. They need to utilize Disney Plus to do animated Star Wars movies. They could shoot a 90 to 120 minute thing, animate it so it could be kind of whatever they want it to be, low budget, whatever, put it out. It's new Star Wars content, and new Star Wars fans are going to love it. But at the same time, they could really open up the door, and they could put it out, and it doesn't have to have that guise of the live action or theatrical thing. They could put it out, and they could tell stories from all over the place. And I think just given hey, there's a new Star Wars movie, it's animated, kind of reminds me of like, and I don't watch this stuff, but I know that like DC movies have a lot of success with their animated DC properties. And I think the reason it is because they can just continually put that stuff out because it doesn't take that much money. And then you bring in like specific writers that are really good. I'm just thinking about all the stories that they've told in books, but then spending more. I mean, obviously it would be a lot more, but I'm spending more money creating the assets for this particular story and putting it out there, and it is what it is. If it takes off, then you already have all the assets in there, and it's pulling people to Disney Plus, and you get this really epic adventure that's more, it's like a book and a movie crossed over. It's like an animated movie. I don't know. I think that from this point on, because of how good the end of the Clone Wars was, you're probably going to hear me talk more about the possibilities of animated movies on Disney Plus and them being like one-off stories and not like animated Rebels characters or animated Clone Wars characters or something like that. But I don't know, man. Perfect. But let's talk about it. Let's actually get into the nitty-gritty of the episode. We're starting this thing off just where we left, right? Part 4, baby. All right. Rex and Ahsoka are escaping out of the room, and they do a pretty good job of getting out of there, and they have to shoot down some of the clones, and I think this is our first hint that Rex is going to have a hard time doing it. He says the boys aren't taking it very well. She says, just set that thing to stun, and that is something you might miss until later, but my second watching, I was like, oh, okay, cool. She is staying characteristically true throughout this whole thing. She doesn't think that these people need to be hurt. So she is saying, make sure you're stunning these people and we're going to move forward. And that's a good little cue there. From there, we move on to Maul, and he is just going crazy, right? Vadering out on everybody. There was this, last week's episode was great. Everybody really related that to the Vader Rogue One scene, right? And there was this thing of Sam Witwer, and he was on Twitch or something like that, and he said, hold up, Maul's hallway scene is not done yet. Let's wait to compare the two. And yeah, I think it delivered, because this second part of his like hallway walkthrough scene was great, and possibly even better than the other one. He does like a double force choke. He goes into the other room, and he's like, the way he's manipulating the force, and he actually turns. We actually saw this kind of in Rebels when Ezra was like kind of toying with the dark side. But like he turns a soldier to face another soldier so that the soldier has to shoot the other one. And it's like, that's so crazy, man. He gets in there, he does some really good stuff, and they end up showing him like breaking the hyperdrive, which is, it's kind of one of those things, like, I don't think we've ever really seen it. We've kind of seen things that are similar, but when I'm watching this moment, I'm going, I don't know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen when like somebody's, trying to blow something up, or right. He's like trying to hit it. Okay. Then it's probably going to explode or something, but this is different. This was him breaking the hyperdrive so that the ship, I don't know, like, is he trying to commit suicide? Yeah, probably not. Right. He's trying to blow the whole thing up? Is he trying to drop him out of hyperspace? And it ends up falling kind of in between there. He wants to pull the ship out of hyperspace in a way that is going to be fatal to everybody on board, and then he just wants to get out. And it's just a really cool, interesting way to do it. I really liked that. I thought that was awesome, and it was an interesting way for him to get off the ship and also kind of wrap up everything that's been going on in this story. When Rex and Ahsoka make it to that main room, the first thing they do is they get in there and they open up the main doors, and you see the planet. Man, I gotta tell you, the cinematography in this episode is just on, man. Like, on all the other episodes, you're like, this is different, this is better, this is really good, I love this. And every single shot of this episode was like perfection. I mean, I'm telling you, like, every time they cut to something different, I was like, oh man, it's like a push in, or like, oh my gosh, like the way they're, moving two things across like that. It was just absolutely the best. So they open up these doors. You see the planet. It's revealed. She says, "We got to get out of here." Yeah, it's awesome. From there, then they have to open up the side doors, and you do see a ship, but you also see all the other clones running in, and they get in this formation, and then you see Jesse like walk out into the front, like cinematography. It's just so good. And they have to come up with this plan to get off of the ship, and they're being blocked off by every one of these clones that have been loyal to them for so long. So what are they going to do? And they have to come up with this crazy plan. That being said, it's an interesting little turn of events here, as Rex is kind of the one that's like, no, we need to kill him. And Ahsoka has to kind of bring him back to reality to be like, we're not going to kill these people. Like, these are your brothers. These are my friends. Like, these are people who don't know what's happening to them, and they could potentially be saved. We are not going to just end them because of something that isn't their choice. And as we have this moment where she like realizes he's upset, pulls the thing off, and we see Rex crying. Huge moment, man. Huge moment. It's just, I don't know. It's so, I don't know. It's massively moving, and I can't believe that, sometimes that in watching the show, they're capable of going to this depth to the conflict that's going on inside him, I mean, this guy calls these people his brothers, and in a lot of ways you're like, oh, that's kind of a term that we know is like a military thing. Like, oh, everybody who's in my company or my group or whatever, I don't know military stuff that much, but, fellow military men, those are my brothers. We learn that. But this is crazy, man. This is like their understanding of the world is like, we are the same. We are the same person. We are literally brothers. And it's weird to think that every clone sees every other clone as their twin brother. Like family, literally blood connected. Couldn't be more is more connected than twins. It's just, it's phenomenal to think like, what he has to go through, because he's like, oh, we have to kill him, or every single twin I have is now against me and wants to kill me or something. It's just, it's incredible. But, like I said before, Ahsoka says they may be willing to die, but I'm not the one who's going to kill them. So they come up with a new plan. Now, so they're headed out. They face off with Jesse, and this is the plan, right? They're going to try to stall him for a second to let the droids get to the controls to move the floors up and down, which is interesting. I didn't really know that they could do that, but it's kind of cool to think that when they can, that would be a really terrifying thing to have happen to you. You're on that thing, and then the floor like drops out. It's pretty crazy. But they come up with the plan. The floors drop out. The clones are down. And that's when Maul shows up. Maul is, again, still owning it. He's doing a good job, right? He has planned all this out because he's been paying attention to the communicator. And he runs for the ship. I love what happens here is Ahsoka and Rex recognize that Maul's going for the ship. Ahsoka takes the lead in going for him, and Rex is just kind of on his way to making it there. And in that process, Maul recognizes that Ahsoka's following her and says, this is your fault. Like, you wanted this chaos. And he throws her off the path, and he gets in the ship. Saved by the droid. I'm going to throw that out there because we all know what's happening, what's going to happen there. But she gets saved by the droid. And this is one of those things. I said this about one of the other episodes. I was like, yeah, the droid thing, I'm not really a droid guy or whatever. But the droids were way better utilized, I think, in this episode. Like, anytime they were on screen, it was like a side note. There's actually one thing, and I'm going to go back just for a second, but there's one scene where they all walk in, and this is how I think you pay attention and take care of droids while utilizing them properly. There's 3 droids right there. She says, you do this, and you do this. And then that's it. they get that information for her, they deliver it to her later, and then there's only one segment where she says, "Can I count on you guys? All right, let's go." And it's like, boom, that's right. Then they're part of the story too. We cut to them just for a second, but we never spend this long period of time where we're having this discussion with them or whatever. I think they're utilized, but my focus is on Rex and Ahsoka, and sorry to anybody who's droidist. So Maul's back in the ship, and he's taken off, and Ahsoka does the like Rey thing, right? Boom! She like grabs the ship. Now it's kind of funny too, because some might say this is kind of like the Star Killer thing, and I'm sure somebody could point out other things, other times that Star Wars characters or properties have done this. But to me, the original one was Star Killer, right? He grabs the ship, and then now it's kind of Ahsoka, right? Rey. She grabs the ship. And so Ahsoka's doing the same thing. She grabs this thing, she's pulling. There's a pretty good back and forth showing Maul and like him, trying to turn on the jets and stuff. It surprisingly seemed more interesting than I think it actually even was. So I think they delivered there. Like, we've seen this scene a couple times. We've probably even seen it in other movies too. Like, I don't know, Captain America like grabs a ship or something, pulling him back, right? But I don't know. I was fully intrigued into this. I was like watching the way she was utilizing the Force and how it was pulling her to Rex grabbing onto her and trying to hold her in place and stuff. And then I don't know. They did a good job at making this scene tense, even though we've seen it before. And I think one of the really cool aspects of this is that it was unsuccessful. In the sense that, Rex says he needs her help. They're losing, and she has to focus in. There's a quick scene of her like focusing down and saying, "You know what? I'm needed elsewhere." And that's kind of like a thing for Ahsoka in this most recent season, I should even say, is saying like, when somebody needs your help, you help them. Period. That's the end of it, right? So Rex needs her help right now. He doesn't necessarily need her to get the ship right now. There's still maybe a way off of this, but right now I'm going to get killed. She lets Maul go, even though it's seemingly their last hope. It's awesome. It's a good move, right? Poetic. Now, because they're trapped, there's only one way out, or there's no way out, I should say, and Ahsoka manages to find one, and we've seen kind of her do these types of moves before. There's a famous one that she's really known for where she like flips up, does like a spiral, and cuts off 4 people's heads, which was awesome. But in this particular episode, she uses where she's standing, she puts the saber down, she cuts out the hole, and which is an Anakin move, right? We've seen. Did he do that in Revenge of the Sith? I think they cut a hole out and then they fell down or something. I'm blanking at the moment, but yeah, they fall down and only gets them away for a second because the troopers are down there as well, or they jump down or whatever. And that is the moment when the droids flip back the panels so that they go up. Now the the clones are getting flipped up. And it's like, it's perfect. It's one of those things where it's like, you never expected the floor to drop out. And then by the time you forgot about it, they turn them back on and the floor goes up and you're like, oh my God, of course, it's like, it's perfect utilization of the droids. But this is when we get to that moment and they walk over to the droid. I was thinking that too. I was like, it was so perfect when they flip these things up. I go, this is an interesting episode because I feel like the droids right now are heroes, and you have to figure out a way to get the droids or the heroes off of this ship, because I don't know. I mean, it literally did not even occur to me that they would just like forget the droids, and I was almost anticipating this thing where I'm like, great, now we're gonna get this big scene where, but we got to get the droids too. And then they have to fly over and they got to pick up the droids, and then they're going to end and you have these droids. I'm not saying it's like a bad thing, but I'm just saying like it could potentially have led to baggage. I want these 2 heroes to get off, and man, they gave it to us like in a very terrible way. like in a very good but heart-wrenching way. They show the clones walk over to the droids and go, well, here's the problem. Let's just solve that right now. And they cut to a very Order 66 looking scene as if it was directed by George himself. It's such a crazy shot, pun intended, I guess. But they just destroy the droids. They just shoot them. I don't know. It's an execution. It's awesome. Like, I hate saying that, but like, I'm so glad that like animated kids show Star Wars is like, oh, how do we solve this problem? Yeah, well, how would the clones have really done this? They would have walked over and they would have had absolutely no remorse for these characters. They just would annihilate them. Just kill them off. And that's exactly what happened. And it provides a solution because not only does it make the whole situation even more dire, but it just allows us to focus on the two characters that we really care about, which they barely make it off of the ship. They do this whole like Rex gets out of the ship, Ahsoka misses the grab, and she does this whole skydiving thing, which again is intense. It, like at one point she's like running on the other properties, which we've seen before, which we know she can do. So in a weird way, we're kind of like, we're not super stressed about this, but we know that the all of the wreckage and everything, I don't know. It's really good. I feel like I'm rambling about this part because I don't really know exactly how to word it, but like when I'm watching it, it's like, I know that, the people in Mission Impossible are going to make it out, right? But at the same time, they do a really good job at making it intense where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And I really like how they handle it, because when she's inevitably saved, I go, oh, good. Oh, she made it. All right. And she manages to make it into the ship, and you watch the rest of the ship go down, and there's this like one shot of like, you see the clouds and the ship's going down, and it's all so good. And after that, we get to the kind of, well, I don't want to say it's the epilogue, but it's kind of like the first epilogue, right? We see after the ship goes down, they've landed, and we see this perfect shot of the ship from the top, and then we see like Rex just right in the middle, and he's walking out to his ship. That scene is important because it comes back here later. You already know because you watched the episode. But we cut over to Ahsoka and what she's been doing while Rex is trying to, I guess, repair the ship or look for anything else. Ahsoka has been gathering the helmets of the soldiers and putting them on the staffs, like kind of like we saw in Mandalorian, except like in a more like proper burial way, memorial kind of way. But man, all these shots of Ahsoka, she's wearing like the hooded poncho thing, like this just screams like this is Ahsoka from Rebels. This is Ahsoka from the end of Rebels, like when she's that, white Jedi kind of looking character. I can't think of a better way to have wrapped this up. The panning across to see Jesse's helmet, it's absolutely perfect. And she stands there, she drops the saber, and it's funny, it's kind of one of those things where like I thought, wait a second, hold on, let me think about the continuity here. What's the story? And I wanted to go back and look it up, and I just didn't because I was like, she drops the saber, she leaves the saber there, and then when we get to the next scene, it's like, you know what, that's better. I don't care what, if there is a story and it could line up with continuity perfectly, I don't remember. But if there's a story where she just like has the sabers or kept the sabers, I really feel like that should be, I don't know, crossed out. I just feel like this is so better. She drops the saber, she walks away completely, not in her way, like not by choice at this point. This is like, hey, this is what the Empire has done to her. And when we get to this next scene, I think there was some rumors that potentially Darth Vader could show up. I think this was absolutely handled perfectly. Now we're years later. It's an ice planet. He's been hunting the Jedi, and he manages to come across the site. We have the Lambda-class shuttle. We have new stormtroopers. And Darth Vader walks up to the shuttle, and we see that same shot that I was talking about before. It's like just so perfectly put together. He goes there, he picks up the saber, he brushes it off, he turns it on. Darth Vader holding a blue saber. It's iconic image already. It's so awesome. And knowing that it's Ahsoka's saber and how far things have come, you even get a shot from the front, and they do this like thing where, in episode 4, you can kind of look and you can see through see his face just a little bit. And I think they did that here as well. They wanted to kind of remind you that Anakin's in there. You can kind of see through the red visors, and you can see the person inside. And he looks up to the sky, and he sees the owl flying around, which is this like Mortis style connection to Ahsoka, which we saw at the end of Rebels. And so this is the first time he sees it. Well, I mean, as far as we know, this is the first time he sees it, and then he'll see it again at that battle later at the end of season 2 of Rebels and stuff. So it's just what an amazing ending to this series. And honestly, I can't really say that much more about it. It's a perfect episode. It's a perfect ending to the series. It felt like I was watching Kanan's death again, or I felt like I was watching like the end of Rebels or something. It's a memorable day. Remember this day, the day that the Clone Wars series had their finale, and it was perfect. So that's it. That's it for this show for now. I don't know if there's any chance that there will be any more episodes. I've kind of talked about the season. I've kind of talked about the series. Can't expect anything more. I really am glad that you guys have been watching the episodes, liking, commenting, all that stuff. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. The Clone Wars fan show is presented by Star Wars Newsnet and the Resistance Broadcast. Thank you guys so much. Tune into the channel for all other Star Wars content. And finally, like I said right off at the top, may the 4th be with you.